Hello everyone, welcome to GB Bricks. In today's video I'm going to tell you my 10 favourite LEGO sets released in the year of 2024, which has been a good year overall I would say. Some very good sets released, some very nice sets. There's one that I expected to be my number one. It was my most anticipated set of the year. Funnily enough, if you follow my other channel, if you know that I have two channels, being a Nintendo Switch related channel called Switch Up, in that recently we did our best games of the year, and I mentioned that the game I expected to be my number one didn't even make my top 5. Well, strangely enough, the same thing has happened with LEGO, where the set that I was expecting to be the number one didn't even make my top 10. That set being the X Mansion. I was really looking forward to that. It's not even in the top 10. But saying that, disappointment aside, there have been some great sets this year. Which are my 10 favourite? Well, let me show you. So in 10th place then we have LEGO set 21348, which is the Dungeons & Dragons Red Dragon's Tale. Now, I'm not a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons. I've never played the game or anything like that. I've played a few of the video games over the years, and I love the concepts of it. I love the world building that takes place within it. But this wasn't a LEGO set that I was desperate to run out and buy. And I did like the LEGO Ideas concept, the original design, and while some people were disappointed with what ultimately became the official set, I actually do think it's an improvement. I think the switch from a green dragon to a red is much more in keeping with the little that I know about Dungeons & Dragons. It's certainly the dragon that I remember seeing on books and board games of the time, and I think the set in general is just a really nice homage, I guess, to that series. It has all the classic little nods that you would expect, has some great figures in there as well, and can be very well complemented by the minifigure CMF series that released this year, which was also Dungeons & Dragons themed. It means you can populate this set and really bring it to life. It was on the expensive side, that's for sure. You did get an exclusive free gift if you bought it around about the time. I think LEGO then re-released that free gift a while later. I'm assuming this didn't sell as well as they were hoping, which is not the greatest move, I must say. I have seen it recently over here in the UK in a shop called Argos for a good 20-25% off, so if you did miss out and are looking to pick it up for a cheaper price, that may well be the way. But on the whole, a very good set and my number 10 for the year. In 9th place then we got set 10327, which is the Dune Atreides Ornithopter. Now again, Dune is not a series that I am a big fan of. I've never read the novel. I've seen the David Lynch film from way back in the 80s, and I've seen part 1 of the newer 2-part series or movie that we've had. Never saw the TV series either. But I do, again, it's sometimes it's just more about the world that these books or these movies or these games, etc. create that really grabs my attention, and then any other media based around it over the years has a chance for me to pick it up, even if I'm not the biggest fan of it. And the Ornithopter here is definitely a case of that. I think it translates very well into LEGO. I think LEGO did a great job of making it practical in terms of being, something that looks like it can work. The way that the blades release, the way that the mechanic used for that is fairly well hidden, and the characters, the figures that come with it, I think do complement the set very well. There are some issues with some of the Technic pieces being used, being brightly coloured, which in terms of the building experience does help to differentiate between a lot of black pieces. Me being colourblind, I do find this especially helpful, but when they show through on the final build I do find it disappointing, and I do wish there was a better balance with LEGO of hiding those pieces that are going to be, front and centre when they're using Technic pieces. But that being said, I still think this is a great set. I bought it fairly soon after it came out in a shop called Game and got it for about 20-30% off. It may even have been as high as that. Very happy to have it, and yep, that's my number 9 for the year. In 8th place we've got 80054, which is Megapolis City, which is a Monkey Kid set. Now Monkey Kid is a series that I buy every now and then. I've never seen the LEGO show. I know about the Chinese legend that obviously many shows have been based off over the years, and I do love this theme. I think when it gets it right, it gets it really right, and I've mainly picked up mechs from Monkey Kid, with the exception of a couple of the buildings, and Megapolis City is certainly one of those. I love the almost cyberpunk feel it has to it. It has that kind of muddled street where nothing quite makes sense, but at the same time everything makes sense. I really do love that. It has that almost childish quality to it. You could imagine a child, if they had infinite bricks and an infinite amount of time, ultimately creating this set. It's like the monkeys with the typewriters, you know, like it's just so crazy that I could see a child's imagination eventually settling on this if they had all the time and all the bricks in the world. I also love the fact that it can combine with a couple of other Monkey Kid sets, being the City of Lanterns and the Hideout, I believe it's called, the Monkey Kid Hideout. Now I do own both those sets and I will be combining them at one point, albeit me personally I think I'm going to leave out the Hideout and just combine it with the City of Lanterns. You have like a train system with some track, and owning the two sets together gives you enough track to combine the track around the two and make a more complete looking city. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that. I may well do a video on that when I get around to it, because I think it's one where it's quite difficult to know exactly how to do. There's not one definitive video that shows you how to do it, so if I can get my head around it, I may well make a video showing how it's done. A very interesting set though, just a crazy combination of elements, and it's my number 8 for the year. In 7th place we have 60400, which is the Go-Karts and race drivers. Now this set just goes to show that it doesn't matter how much a set costs. If I think it's designed well, it has a massive chance of making my top 10 list for the end of the year. I mentioned in a video recently about some of my favourite small sets of all time that I'd love to see LEGO go back to 4-stud wide cars. This isn't quite 4-stud wide, but I do love it's almost like a nod or a throwback to some of the older sets you used to get, the ones that were based around race driving or Formula 1. I remember those sets very well as a kid, you know, with the Octane logo on it and what have you. And I think these do a very good job of bringing back memories of such sets. And yeah, like I said, it just goes to show that price really doesn't matter. You don't need a massive budget behind a set to just get all its elements right. I'm happy to see that LEGO have looked to continue that theme with the soapbox racing sets they're releasing next year, 2025. I don't like those as much, but I appreciate the thought, and I like the fact that they seem to be committed to releasing sets that are smaller in terms of footprint, cars that are smaller, and just nodding back to the good old days of LEGO as well. In 6th place we've got 76440, which is the Tri-Wizard Tournament, The Arrival. This is a Harry Potter set, the only Harry Potter set on the list for this year. I'm not the biggest fan of LEGO Harry Potter or Harry Potter in general. Fun fact is that I was actually a teacher in another life, and the first Harry Potter book, The Philosopher's Stone, I must have read so many times over the years, because every new class at that time wanted that to be our book that we read. So every year I ended up reading that book to a class, and I got fed up with it. Absolutely fed up with that first book. The second one I never read actually for years because I was just sick of the first one. But over time I read the rest, and I did enjoy the series. But it's more with this set, it's the fact that it's a ship. I do collect LEGO ships, and I think this is a lovely one. The Durmstrang, you get the Beauxbatons small carriage as well, of course, which is fine. I'm happy it's in the set because it does complete the scene, if you like. But I would have been happy just with the Durmstrang, to be perfectly honest. I think it's a great build. I think it looks very unique, whilst still fitting in with a LEGO ship collection and not looking too out of place. It is a bit sticker heavy in terms of like the shields and whatnot. It would have been nice to see some of those be prints, but it's not the end of the world. And I do think that once built, this looks very impressive. And yeah, it's not a theme that I buy often, but fair play to them, they really did smash it with this one. In 5th place we got 71438, which is Super Mario World, Mario and Yoshi. Now, I've just mentioned that my other channel is a Nintendo Switch channel. I am a big Nintendo fan, always have been over the years, but my era of gaming, more than any, was the 16-bit era, and Super Nintendo was obviously Nintendo's offering of the time, and Super Mario World is a game that I know very well, completed it many times, really do love it. And this, I think, is a great representation, not just of the characters of that game, Mario and Yoshi, of course, but the pixel art that Nintendo used. It was obviously the art style of the time, pixel art in terms of video games, and I think this does a great job of bringing that to life. Yeah, now of course, if you look behind and you see all of the mechanisms and the black pieces, it's not going to look as impressive. It is a set that you need to kind of put on a shelf or up against a wall, but I don't care about that. I think once it's up on a shelf or against a wall, it looks great. The mechanisms themselves to make certain parts move, I think it's a very clever idea. I don't think they needed to go that far. It could have just been a static piece, and I would have still bought it as a display piece. The fact that the tongue moves and the legs move and whatnot, yeah, I think that's a nice little addition. I think this set looks great, actually. I was so pleased to pick this one up, and yeah, definitely, like, comfortably one of my 10 best sets of the year. In fourth place, we got 76328, which is the classic TV series 1960s Batmobile. Again, big Batman fan, so I've mentioned some series along the way that I'm not as big a fan of, but I like the Lego representation. Here, that's not the case at all. Massive fan of Batman, always have been. The 60s show has a lot of nostalgia for me. I'm not that old, not quite, but when I was a kid, say in the 90s, the early 90s, it was on TV, you know, reruns, and I remember going to my nan and granddad's house, and it would be on around that time, and we'd ask if we can go and watch it in their room. You know, you couldn't have the main TV in the front room because the adults were watching it, or they were in there, you know, so you'd go in their bedroom and watch it on a tiny little telly. And yeah, good memories of the cliffhangers, you know. Tune in next week to see how Batman and Robin survived the latest crazy contraption. You know, the villains were just so colourful and wild. Yeah, as much as I love other forms of Batman more, I do have a lot of nostalgia for that show, and this is a lovely set. Again, it represents that classic Batmobile very well. It's a fun build experience. I've built this one and got it on display. A couple of small gripes that held it back from being perhaps a little bit higher. They're not the ones that most people have. It's not about the fact that the steering wheel doesn't turn the wheels. Mine are more around the fact that I think it's a tiny bit too small. If you compare it to the 89 Batmobile, it's just a little too small. Now, in terms of the scale of the two, it may be perfectly on point, but when you're displaying them one above the other, say on shelves, they just don't quite look as good together as I would hope they did. And the lack of a Robin minifigure, I think, is a big miss. I'm not the biggest advocate for every set having a bunch of minifigures in. I would rather Lego really think about their budget and how they can use it to the best of use it to stretch as far as it can, and if that means cutting minifigures, I'm all for that. But I think in this case, with this particular model, where it was all about Batman and Robin as a partnership, the dynamic duo, of course, I think you needed him here too. But having said that, it still sits comfortably in fourth place. Into the top three then, and in third place we've got 21350, which is Jaws. Now again, this is a case where I am a big fan of the source material. I love the film Jaws, it's one of my favourite films of all time. And I had an idea myself to build, not a Jaws related set exactly, but my idea was to take the GWP that came out a few years back, being the sailboat, and build a diorama of a shark coming up through the waves and attacking that boat. And then it came to light that Lego Ideas, or via Lego Ideas, there was going to be a Jaws set anyway, and when I saw the images, I was pleased with what I saw, and when I saw the finished official build and obviously the official reveal, I thought it looked great, you know. And again, I know there are always people that prefer the original Ideas design, that's fair enough. There's been a few where I thought that Lego have dropped the ball a bit, but for the most part I think, you know, they take the idealistic, this is what it could look like with 1,000 more pieces, a much bigger budget, potential stability problems, you never know, and making it into a more viable set. And here I think they did a great job. One thing I would have liked, I said this in a video before, it's not something they could have done, I don't think, in any good conscience, but I would have loved to have seen the shark perhaps attacking the boat a bit more, the orca, and kind of representing or recreating the scene where the shark is literally on the boat and attacking Quint. But there's obviously, you know, Lego are not going to make a set that's potentially that gory, so I understand why that didn't happen. But aside from that, I think the minifigures look brilliant, having all three characters represented and looking as detailed and as close to the actors as they do. The orca looks fantastic, and, you know, oh, Brucey boy, the shark, also looks good. I like the fact you can display it separately should you wish. Yeah, no, I was very, very happy with this set. Bought it day one, which is not something I always do. Yep, third place for the year, no bother. In second place then, another aquatic based set, if you like. This is 10335, the Endurance. Again, this is just a set where I've got a serious interest in its source material. The story of the Endurance ship and its voyage, and ultimately a disastrous voyage in terms of what happened, but the fact that no one died, all of the crew survived, is an incredible story, really. And I was very intrigued to see what they do with this model when I heard obviously it was coming. And I said in a haul video where I picked this one up and showed it, that there was a moment, a small moment when it first revealed, where I was slightly disappointed it wasn't minifigure scale, but I snapped straight out of that when I thought, actually no, because had they done that, they'd have had to have lost so much detail. And again, this is kind of what I was saying a minute ago. I can appreciate minifigures aren't the be all and end all, and some sets just work better without them. It may have been nice to have one included, like the Captain Shackleton, just for display purposes with the plaque. But I don't think it's the end of the world that he's not in there. I think the ship itself just looks fantastic. It's a lovely representation of the Endurance, a ship that they obviously in recent times located under the sea, and I just think this is a great set to commemorate that, really, and as I said, the fact that no one died is a wonderful story of kind of human endurance, ironically enough with the name of the ship, of course. And I think this is a lovely Lego representation of a classic or iconic moment in history. And in first place for the year then, we have 71821, which is Cole's Dragon Titan Mech. This was a set that as soon as I saw it, I was blown away. I've recently, in the last couple of years, got into Ninjago as a theme, mainly down to my kids watching the TV show. But the mechs in particular, which was something I never really thought about in Lego mechs, until I saw just how good some of them were, and by that point I'd missed some very good ones. Thankfully, I've also managed to grab a fair few of them, and I've also picked a couple up from eBay that I had missed, that had retired, for good prices, so I'm delighted with that. But this is absolutely the creme de la creme in terms of Lego mechs as far as I'm concerned. Again, and it's because there's no side build, there's no 4, 5, 6, 7 minifigures, there's one figure to pilot the mech, and all the budget went into making that mech the best it could be, and I thank Lego for doing that, and I think it's fantastic. I don't think they'll stick with that. I think they'll go back to more of a happy medium in the future, so as younger children can play with it and it has more bits to create a scene with. And also, I get possibly to bring the price down. Depends, obviously, if the side builds add up to the same budget, that won't be the case. But I'm happy that just one time they went big for the main build and cut all the other bits out. And I think the end result is something truly special. I think it looks fantastic. I love the colour scheme. I watched the show with my kids. I do like Cole, the ninja. He's probably my favourite. So the fact that it was he that got such a great mech is also very pleasing. The levels of articulation are fantastic. You can put this into some crazy poses. Obviously, it's not, it will still wobble. It still has some stability issues. But once you've got it in a pose, if you are then leaving it alone, it looks fantastic. And I think this is it's great to see Lego doing this. Like I said, even if it is just a one-off or a rare occasion that they'll do this and put so much budget into one main build, but the fact they have done it and the fact that it came out this year means it's my number one. So there you have it. That's my top 10 Lego sets released in 2024. I hope you enjoyed this video. Apologies, I've been very ill recently, like really quite blown away by illness. So you can probably still hear it. I'm very nasally and whatnot. So sorry about that. Hope you'll be back and fighting fit soon. But do let me know your favourite sets of the year down below. Like I said, the one I expected to be number one didn't even make the top 10. That being the X-Mansion. Big X-Men fan back in the day. Big Gambit fan. I know that's quite popular to say these days, but I was a Gambit fan when no one knew who Gambit was. Roundabouts where I lived and whatnot. And I was expecting this to just easily be up there. And I just felt the build was very disappointing. Too many large pieces, some strange choices in terms of the exterior. Yeah, just wasn't for me in the end, which is fine. That's the way it goes. There's certainly been plenty of other sets for me to buy instead, so no worries there as far as I'm concerned. But do let me know of any sets that disappointed you as well. Stick it all down below and I'll give it a good read. I hope you are having a lovely Christmas and had a great year. Take care. And I will see you soon. There may be one more video before 2025 is out. If not, have a happy new year, take care, and happy building.